Russia's invasion of Ukraine has led to severe backlash and a slew of heavy sanctions, which is crippling Russia's economy. And to help them, could Russia move closer to its biggest ally, China? In their last meeting, Russia's President Putin and China's Xi Jinping announced that the friendship between the two countries had no limits. Indeed, on the day of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Chinese customs and authorities announced the lifting of China's import restrictions on Russian weed. Earlier this week, U.S. officials say that Russia has asked China for support on military equipment, but Russian officials have denied this. Meanwhile, in early February, China and Russia signed a deal in which Russia will provide China with gas for the next 30 years through a new gas pipeline. The deal was worth $117.5 billion and was announced in the same month that Russia began its invasion of Ukraine. Following that invasion, Germany canceled its Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline with Russia, as many other countries are vowing to end their oil and gas deals with Russia. So the question is the war pushing Russia and China closer together? How does all of this impact Indonesia? To discuss more, we are joined now by Sugandi, who is a project consultant and also a senior economist at the Asian Development Bank Institute based in Tokyo. Hi, Eric.
Hello.
Hi, such a pleasure to have you on the show. So, Eric, following their invasion of Ukraine, Western and European countries are trying to cut off economic ties with Russia. No more gas and oil from Russia, they're saying, And will this push Russia and China economic ties even closer together now?
Indeed. I think so. I mean, China and Russia will have a closer relationship than before the Russia's invasion to Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
But this kind of relationship is based on pragmatism. So despite these two countries have signed the unlimited friendship treaty or something like that, but it's not like a military alliance or something like that.
Okay.
It's more based on the pragmatism. It's not based on ideological or based on the historical romanticization. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're right. But one thing that I want to underline.
Yeah, elaborate more in what ways could elaborate more in what ways
sure.
could the ties be closer together?
In terms of economic cooperation, has been shown before, we know that the Gazprom from Russia has signed the contract with the Chinese CNPC to send the natural gas through Siberia, and then also there's another plan to flow the LNG through the Mongolia, and then there's also agreement between the Rosneft and CNPC to flow the crude oil from Russia to China through Kazakhstan. Okay. This kind of cooperation we can see, and then for metals, other things like nickels, aluminum. Although the size of Russia's export to China is not as big as Russia's export of energy, okay. But China will become a buyer there, a standby buyer for that.
Yeah.
And then we also see that the military equipment purchased by China may be accompanied by a technological transfer from the Russian side. So I see that the relations becomes closer, but in this case, China will have the upper hand because Russia is isolated by many countries, so it will become more dependent on China in this kind of relationship. Okay.
Okay. So tell us more about this closer relationship between China and also Russia. How will this impact Indonesia? How can Indonesia benefit from this?
Right. For China, because Russia becomes more dependent on China, China has the more bargaining power against Russia, and then as a buyer of energy as well as metals, it has more choices of country to buy its needs. Meaning that for Indonesia, if China and Russia becomes closer than before, Indonesia may have there is a risk that Indonesia have to compete with Russia, and China has the upper hand in the trade with Indonesia because as a buyer, China has more alternative than before.
Okay, so Indonesia can be the alternative to China or to Russia.
Yeah, Indonesia can be an alternative, but if you ask what kind of commodities, we have to go through details. I mean, like oil, Indonesia is net importer of oil, so meaning that if the oil prices go up, then Indonesia will be harmed by the price increase because Indonesia is a net importer of oil.
Yeah.
Now on gas, Indonesia can benefit from that, but you know, Russia supplies about 40% of EU demand, and EU plans to reduce the import of gas from Russia to a third from as is condition now. But Indonesia must also have to compete with other bigger producers like the US and Qatar and Malaysia and Australia as well. So it's not easy, but it opens up some opportunities for Indonesia. Now you asked about the minerals like nickels. We have the export ban based on the law, Indonesian law that bans unprocessed minerals. So meaning that if you want to get a value added or improve our export of minerals, we should the government should push for the development of the smelters. Should be expedited.
Okay. Okay. So as you mentioned earlier, Western countries is cutting ties with Russia. Countries that are looking for alternative oil supplies than Russia. But explain to us in a bigger view, how much is this conflict changing the global economic and trade landscape?
All right. I see that this conflict may put China to a bigger and greater role in the globalization. We should remember that China is benefited from the globalization since joining the WTO and in the year of 2000. So that is why I said that China may not want to risk its position as the winner in the globalization by defending Russia all out. So it's more like a pragmatism. And because China Russia becomes more dependent on China, at the same time, China also gets the upper hand in the trade bargaining vis-a-vis Russia. So China will play a more important role in the global economy. At the same time, we also see that the U.S. economy is still struggling with the spiking inflation. And then you see that the Fed is planning to hike the U.S. Fed fund rate by another
25.
By 6 times more this year.
Yeah, 6 times more, starting with 25 basis points. But let's focus on Russia's economy. As we can see, Russia is on the brink of defaulting on its sovereign debt, or not being able to pay for foreign currency debt for the first time since 1998. So could you explain to us, especially to our viewers, what factors are behind this, and how will this impact the world economy, and will it have an impact at all to Indonesia's economy?
Yeah, for the payment that due on Wednesday this week, about 7 hours ago, Russia has already paid the 117 million interest payment to the international investors, meaning that Russia is also trying to avoid defaulting its debt, because when it happens, then Russia can be downgraded by the rating agency, which is not good for Russia.
So it's still taking precautions.
Yes. Russia is. I see that Russia is still trying to meet its commitment to the international investors.
Okay. So this is as a last question, and this is like, I just want to have an opinion regarding this. I mean, as you mentioned earlier, the Federal Reserve, moved to hike interest rates by 20 basis points starting in the coming moment. In this current global condition right now, what kind of impact will the Fed rate hike have on Indonesia and other emerging markets in ASEAN, Pak Erick?
Right. When the Fed hikes the interest rate, the policy rate, the Fed fund target rate, it will push other countries' central bank to also increase the interest rate. But in the case of Indonesia, we see that inflation is still low. last month is still at 2.06%, meaning it's still low, and it should fall within the BI inflation target of 3 plus minus 1%. So I don't see that the BI really need to expedite hiking the interest rate. And then we see that in today's BI meeting, BI kept the interest rate at 3.5%, meaning that BI may still see that there is a room for Indonesia to hike the interest rate slower than other countries.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, BI is trying to support the government to boost economic growth. So I would say that even if BI hike the interest rate this year,
yeah,
it will be moderate. I would expect like 50 basis point by year end.
Okay.
So to around 4%.
Okay. Even as the Fed says that they will increase like 6 times more this year, how is that going to play out?
Usually, it depends on the country, but in the case of Indonesia, I don't really think BI will hike the interest rate 6 more times, given that inflation is still low, under control, and the rupiah is still, well, despite the turbulence in the global market, rupiah is still stable, okay, with relatively low volatility. If BI hike the BI 7-day reverse repo rate too aggressively, then it may harm the economic growth, Indonesia's economic growth.
Okay, very well. Thank you so much for that. Eric Sugandi, project consultant and senior economist at the Asian Development Bank.